Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to our webinar on cybersecurity, how to keep your personal and financial information safe. My name is Marilyn Wagner, and I'm the Chief Experience Officer at our credit union. We want to make sure that everybody here leaves with the knowledge, knowing how to keep your personal information safe. It's a world out there where these people, the imposters, are getting very, very savvy, right? It's not what you're doing, it's what they're doing to try and get in there, try to get your information, try to trick you. So we want to make sure that you're going, let me think about that. Let me pause. Let me make sure that I set up my multi-factor authentication, because as soon as you let them into the house, that's when they can do a lot of damage. So our amazing presenter today, Antonina, is going to take you through a lot of key insights and information. A little bit of housekeeping items. This session, this webinar is recorded, so don't fret. You can take a look at it, and at the end of the day, you will receive a recording with all of the information included. That way you can go over it, take a look at it. Additionally, we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. So there's a Q&A box towards the lower right-hand side. Put your questions there, and either Antonina or I will take them towards the end. I do want to make one little announcement. We're so excited. We're talking about digital transformation. So we have a brand new website. The team has worked extremely hard, but we highly encourage you to go take a look at it as we look to expand our digital experience with our members across the board. So our speaker today is Antonina McAvoy. She's a partner at PB Mayer's Cyber Risk and Advisory Practice. She has a lot of amazing experience and a lot of insights to share with you, so you are armed with the information you need to be successful. So Antonina, I'm going to pass the baton to you. Have a wonderful webinar.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm Antonina McAvoy, partner of Cyber and Risk Advisory Services at PB Mayer's. Thank you to the IDB Global Federal Credit Union team for hosting us, and thank you for taking time today. Our goal today is very simple. It's to give you clear, practical steps for keeping your money, your identity, and your peace of mind safe online. You do not need to be a tech expert to protect yourself. And over the next 45 minutes, I'll show you the most common scams that we're seeing against individuals, what's changed today with today's technology, and certainly some small habits that can make the biggest difference for you. So please keep a pen handy. If a tip resonates, make a note. Those are going to be the actions that will protect you and your family as soon as you leave this session. So without further ado, let's begin with the foundation. Most scams succeed because they create urgency and they catch us off guard. The basics still are going to matter the most for you. So think before you click, avoid unexpected links or attachments, and use those strong, unique passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication wherever possible. And remember, IDB Global will never ask for your password, PIN, or full social security number by email or text. If there's a message that feels rushed, threatening, or really just too good to be true, please pause before responding. Open a new browser and navigate directly to the institution yourself, or call using a verified number from your card or your statement. That brief pause is often really the difference between safety and loss. And so if we think about the smart tip here, slow down. Scammers are relying on you rushing. Now that we've set the stage, let's talk about the most important factor in cybersecurity, and it's people. Technology, it gets the headlines, but people, you are the true line of the defense. So even the most experienced professionals fall for very well-crafted messages because they're designed to feel normal and urgent. And especially with AI, ChatGPT, where we used to see emails come through with errors in spelling or grammar, we don't anymore. We see very well professionally crafted information, messages, text messages, and it's because they're able to leverage AI to create those. They're able to use reconnaissance online that you've shared publicly through your social media platforms that's available on your websites. anything that you have posted or your any institution that you're familiar or related to has posted about you, that's all able to be scavenged by bots and create very well-crafted information. So in the next few slides, we're going to look at how human error, just one hurried click or a helpful reply, can really open the door. And it's not because you want to create risk or open that door. Sometimes you didn't have a coffee in the morning, or you're running on lack of sleep, or just too many things on the to-do list. So we want to replace that risk with practical habits that are very easy to remember and easy to use. And whether you're at home, you're traveling, or you're working remotely like many do these days, we need to start with the human factor that matters so much. All right, here we go. So it's easy to think that cyber attacks happen because of complex technology, but the truth, nearly 95% of them succeed because of one thing, and that is human error. Research shows that really the vast majority of successful cyber incidents begin with human error, clicking a convincing link, entering credentials on a fake website, or really acting on a message that looks routine. So that's really not a judgment. It's a recognition of how sophisticated social engineering has become. The good news, though, is that awareness and small routines, whether it's pausing, verifying, and using MFA or multi-factor authentication, can really prevent most attacks. So think of these habits as your seatbelt. You hope you never need it, but if you use it every single time you're in the car, because it dramatically reduces risk. And so our goal today is really to make those habits second nature. So social engineering, many of you probably have seen a lot of different cases of that. And what I want to do first is rewind to the early days of cyber fraud. You probably remember these. The classic scams are really still effective because they play on emotion. You've seen them, the fake bank emails, lottery winnings, pop-up virus alerts, or tech support calls demanding some sort of immediate action. They are relying on fear, on excitement, on confusion to rush your decision. And a simple rule helps. If the message creates pressure, act now, account closing, urgent problem, step back. Make sure that you verify through a trusted channel that you initiate, like opening a browser, calling from the phone number on your card or your statement. When you control the channel, you are controlling the risk. This is where we are right now. Scammers have become fast, personal, and convincing, but these attacks are still driven by humans or bots that are using familiar tools like texts, calls, and fake websites. They pretend to be your delivery driver, your HR team, or even your child. And they're using details from your own social media, like your dog's name or a vacation photo, to sound very authentic. The key defense, though, here has not changed at all. Please make sure you're pausing before reacting. That moment of skepticism is often all it takes to stay safe in the cyber digital world that we are in today. So everything we've just discussed, texts, calls, fake offers, those are all examples of traditional social engineering. But now the technology is taking these scams to a whole new level. And with artificial intelligence, criminals don't just pretend to be someone you know, they can now sound and even look like them. So let's take a look at how deep fakes and AI-generated scams are changing that game for you. And what can you do to stay one step ahead? So the next wave of scams goes beyond the human effort. It's powered by the artificial intelligence. And with just a few seconds of audio or video that's scrapped from social media, could be from your company that, maybe a podcast or other video of you speaking online, could even be your voicemail, personal voicemail, could be your work voicemail. AI can generate very realistic voice and video that sounds exactly like someone you trust. And these deep fakes can leave voicemails. They can appear in live calls, or they can even join video meetings. The AI chatbots can also respond conversationally, keeping you engaged until you share certain sensitive information. And the takeaway here is really simple. When you feel something feels off, verify it through another method. The AI can fake a voice, but it really can't replicate your intuition. And there's a couple examples. I was watching the news the other night, and I remember one of the newscasters was talking about how, because their face and likeness is all over the web, and there's videos and past recordings of them, it's very easy for a deep fake to be generated of them. And so they actually have a code word with their family and professional coworkers that maybe it says butterfly, or maybe it's another word that you randomly choose. But should there be a convincing message that appears to be them, they're leveraging a code word now to check in, make sure that they're verifying. And I thought that was a really unique tip that's very practical that you can use with your children, your spouse, your family members, and even coworkers, if there's large transactions that you're responsible for sending out for your personal business or corporate business. That's one example. Another example is probably seen online. There was an organization that had a Teams call, and there was someone who came into the call and they looked and sounded like their boss. And there was a request to transfer a very large sum of money. And again, this was not their boss. It was a likeness of them through deepfake. It sounded and it looked like them. So they thought that they were getting the approval to perform the transaction with their bank. But it was not that person. And so this is another reminder that people may look and sound like someone through Teams, Zoom, or other online platforms. But again, if it's a large sum of money, if it seems unusual that that person never does that request that way previously, that you then take a moment and call them again on a known phone line and make sure that you're verifying. It takes only a couple minutes to verify and cause a lot of heartache and a lot of time that would need to recover the funds. So those are just two examples to go into here, but they're very real. It's happening at a personal level and it's happening at a corporate level. So I hope that you take these back from a personal and also apply it going forward into your business as well. So now we're going to move a little bit further into modern threat examples, or first into the social engineering. I think we skipped one slide here. So we really want to make sure that we understand the phishing and the vishing. So phishing and smishing, what are they? We just talked about the AI generated scams with deepfakes. But what we also need to understand is that scammers have become very fast and personal and convincing. But they're still being driven by humans that are familiar tools, those texts and the fake websites. So just make sure that with artificial intelligence, criminals, they don't just pretend to be someone they can now sound and even look like them. And so we just talked a little bit more about what that actually looks for the AI generated scams. And we talked through all of the different types of deep fakes and the chat scams. So please make sure that if it feels urgent or it's emotional, make sure you're pausing and make sure you're verifying. because AI can certainly fake the voice, but it cannot fake the gut instinct that you have. So now let's jump into the modern threat examples. So now that we've framed the human side and the modern tools that criminals use, let's examine a few real-world scenarios affecting individuals right now. And as we go, think about which scenarios you and your family are most likely to encounter. The more familiar these look, the easier it is to spot and to stop them in the moment. So we're going to first look at the loan application scam. Now, with the loan application scam, loan and credit scams often begin with a friendly call or email. You're pre-approved, or we just need to verify a few final details. The messages are urgent. They ask for personal or financial information. But here's the rule. If you didn't initiate the conversation, then don't provide the information. Instead, go directly to your credit union or lender's official website or app. Never, ever pay fees by gift card, wire, or crypto, because legitimate institutions do not request that. And if you're unsure, then stop the process and ask IDB Global to confirm. Real organizations are going to encourage you to verify. The scammers will pressure you to hurry. So again, the smart tip here, trust your instincts. If it feels too urgent or too good to be true, it probably is. Then the next area we're going to look into is the multi-step financial scam. So for this area, the scheme is sophisticated because it feels official. It starts with a fake security alert or pop-up that's pushing you to call tech support. The agent will then guide you to install a remote access software. Then a fraud investigator will call and urge you to move the money to safety. And please know that legitimate financial institutions and government agencies will never ask you to move funds to protect them. And no bank needs remote access to your personal computer. If someone is pressuring you to install software or to transfer your money, hang up. Use a verified number to contact your institution directly. That one reset, ending the call and starting a new one, you control. And that stops the fraud. The next area we're going to dive into is ransomware. Now, we all have heard of ransomware with different corporations on the news, but ransomware can also hit individuals, often through fake "your computer is infected" messages or malicious attachments. The result is the same though. Your files are locked until you pay. And the solution is preparation, so not panic. Now, keep your software and your antivirus up to date. And most importantly, maintain those backups. So have one backup that is a cloud-based for convenience and one that's air-gapped. Now, what does air-gapped mean? It really means that it's on a separate external drive that you can unplug after use. And really, this is applicable both to personal use as well as to corporate use. So we always want to see that there is a backup that's air-gapped away from everything else from a personal perspective. And then also in a corporate scenario, that it's also air-gapped from production data. So if there was a ransomware attack, that the backup is completely separate. It's not on the same production environment, so that the encryption from the ransomware would not impact the production data as well. But if the worst case scenario happens, you can still restore your files in the case of an air-gapped without paying anyone. And you always want to make sure that you are reporting incidents to your financial institution and local authorities. Paying the ransom rarely guarantees the recovery. And even if you had recovery, you don't know if that data is missing information. They might have deleted certain pieces of information. So it's actually interesting. We've seen a little bit of a trend over the years where the ransomware payments compared to what was ransomware requested, initial demand, is actually different. And what we're seeing a little bit is that there is more folks that are getting involved to negotiate ransom payments. So that's helping with reducing the actual payment made versus the initial demand. But then we're also seeing that more organizations and personal individuals are keeping better backups, and they have antivirus and they have their software updates. So they're just not falling prey. They're thinking, they're pausing. So if you have those backups, you are certainly in a better position, and that's where we want you to be. We want you in a position that you have your information and you don't need to rely on a ransomware payment. So the other next step is where we want you to watch out for the ghost tapping scam. And when we think about this, this is where contactless payments are safe when used correctly, right? So you have your credit card, your debit card, and you tap onto the screen at the payment terminal. We all do it. We do it at the supermarket, when shopping. I mean, everywhere now has a lot of the tapping. And so contactless payments are safe when they're used correctly. And what I mean by that, well, criminals can attempt close range tap charges using some hidden readers in crowded areas. So women have their purses, men usually have wallets. You can generally see wallets are pretty thick these days, that you can see them in a back pocket. You might, most people put them in a backpack in one of the smaller areas. So bad actors can go up to those different areas that is more likely to have those type your card information, where your wallet is, and use those hidden readers in the crowded areas to tap. And so how do we protect ourselves from that? Well, you can protect yourself by reviewing statements and enabling real-time transaction alerts in your mobile banking app. You can consider using RFID sleeves or wallets for an extra peace of mind. You can go on Amazon right now and you can type in RFID sleeve for wallet, RFID wallet. They even make phone cases where you can put the phone in, you can put your cards in with your, a lot of times people like to have it all together, and they make those iPhone cases or Android cases that have the cards enabled, and the RFID protection is in that. So just be on the lookout for that. Start, leveraging RFID sleeves and wallets as part of your future purchases to really help protect and provide additional peace of mind. So if you see small unfamiliar charges, report it immediately. Normally you'll see those small charges happen first because they're trying to see, can they authorize that transaction? And then it goes up. The payment, the charge amounts go up because they're able to leverage the card information. But that quick detection allows your institution to reverse fraudulent transactions and prevent additional attempts. So just be aware of that. If you haven't reviewed your statement in a while, please go back, take a look at that, and just do a re-review. Now what we want to talk about is device and data protection. And so when we're thinking about that, we've covered really how scams try to reach you now, and that's through social engineering, deep fakes, other pop-ups, text messages, the smishing on your phone. We all get those now. If it says the USPS package can't be delivered, you have to click this link. That is fake. Please don't do that. It says that your bank is going to, you're going to lose all your money if you don't click this link or call this phone number. Anything on your phone where it's an urgent text message like that wants you to click a link or provide additional information, those again are all the smishing messages. And then the vishing is coming through the voice messages. And then again, we talked about the deep fakes coming through. Either a deep fake can be audio or it could be video and audio. So we covered how the scams are trying to reach you other than email. And now we want to strengthen your own environment. So your devices, your updates, your backups, and your networks. And so a few simple routines can really dramatically reduce and make the recovery straightforward if something goes wrong. So think of this next section that we go through as your digital hygiene checklist, all right? Now, the first area we did talk a little bit about, but I do want to go into a little bit more detail here. So we talked about air gapping. And when we talk about ransomware, one of the best defenses is not the fancy software. It's something anyone can do, and that's the air gapping that we just talked about. So this is going to give you a little bit more of a visual so you can understand what we just covered. So we want to back up your files to the external drive, then disconnect it completely. No internet, no cloud, no Wi-Fi, just a safe offline copy of your most important data. If ransomware is ever locking your computer, you won't have to pay the hacker. You'll restore from the offline backup. And then for everyday access, avoid emailing files to yourself. You can use secure cloud tools like OneDrive or Google Drive and enable automatic syncing. And that really is a winning strategy. It's both convenient cloud backup for daily use, and it's truly the offline copy for any emergencies. So that hopefully gives a good visual for what does an air gap look like. Now, we need to go in and talk about something that's very, very timely. And I hope that everybody has heard about the Windows 10 support that's ended as of last week. Now, Windows ended free security updates for Windows 10 on October 14th, last Tuesday. That means that unpatched home PCs can become very easy targets. If your device supports Windows 11, upgrade. If it does not, then consider Microsoft's extended security updates program for continued protection, or you can move sensitive activity to a supported device. Now, last week, same day, on Tuesday, October 14th, Microsoft also released their software updates to plug a whopping 172 security holes across its Windows operating systems, including at least 2 vulnerabilities that were actively being exploited. And that Patch Tuesday, last Tuesday release really marked the final month that Microsoft will ship security updates for the Windows 10 systems. It's probably why it was one of the big patches. So even if your office systems are managed by IT, internal IT or an outsourced IT, check personal and family computers at home, especially shared desktops or older laptops. One unpatched device on your network can create risk for the rest of them. So take a few minutes, check in with your kids, your spouse, your family members, just to make sure that that the automatic updates are turned on, that you're verifying antivirus software is active, and encourage your family members to reboot their devices so that updates can install. And I would really say that quick household tech check can really go a long way in keeping everyone protected. Again, also, if you have a managed IT that's outsourced, I would still check in with those teams as well, just to make sure that, even though it's out of sight, out of mind, somebody else is managing it through a third-party contract, it's still your devices, it's still your assets, and so it's still your responsibility to make sure, yes, my updates are in fact, I've gone to Windows 11, or I have the appropriate Microsoft Extended Security Updates program for continued protection. So that is one of the most important areas to make sure going into November and the end of the year. So now we've talked about the laptops, workstations. Now I want to talk about your smartphone. And so in addition, when your phone reminds you to install an update, it's not just adding emojis, I can promise you that, or new wallpapers. It's often really fixing those real security problems. And those updates fix security flaws that criminals can actively exploit. On the iPhone, updates come directly from Apple. On the Android, updates may depend on the manufacturer and the carrier, so they can arrive later or stop sooner. So turn on automatic updates and make sure that you're scheduling them for overnight. If your phone no longer receives security updates at all, it really is time to consider, because those 5 minutes that you invest in updating today can prevent weeks of disruption from identity theft tomorrow. So make sure that you have a updated phone that you can certainly you can make sure has appropriate protection. And I like to say here on the smart tip, not to be silly, but later can wait for laundry, not security updates. So please make sure that you take and address those security updates on your iPhone or your Android or other mobile device. So let's dive in a little bit more to phones, because we all have them, right? So for phones, now spam calls are one of the easiest ways that scammers can try to reach us. They're not just annoying anymore. Many are actively phishing attempts designed to trick you into giving away personal or financial information. Many of you probably see the pop-up as scam likely, which is fantastic that that's an update that was part of the iPhone. But the good news is that both Apple and Android phones now include built-in tools to help block or screen those calls automatically. And on iPhones that are running iOS 18, you'll see a feature called Silence Unknown Callers, or in some versions it says Screen Unknown Callers. That can prompt the caller to state their name and reason for calling before you ever pick up. Or you can simply send an unknown number straight to voicemail. I love that. Android phones offer similar protection through a caller ID and a spam protection. And if you're using Google Pixel, the built-in assistant can even answer unknown calls for you and show a live transcript so you can decide whether it's legitimate or not. But I think at the end of the day, you know, the key takeaway here is pretty simple. You no longer have to answer every call. You can let your phone do the screening for you, and reducing that live engagement with unknown callers, it's going to shut down one of the most common ways that these cyber criminals are trying to exploit and start their social engineering attacks. So this kind of is a PSA to make sure your phones are updated. If you're holding on to one of those phones that just is not updated, really consider it, because you can really protect yourself from the identity theft and from information that might be on your phone that you don't want to be in the wrong hands. So let those phones handle the suspicious calls, and don't answer what you don't recognize. You can always call them back if they've left a message. Or I always will pull up a side URL and I'll take a look on Google and type in the phone number to see who was that just called me, to see if they're a legitimate, you know, business or that I should be calling back. So there's a lot of good tips to take away here. Now, the next piece is with your phone is we want to be checking your camera and your microphone settings and permissions. So let's be honest. Most of us don't remember what we've agreed to when we install an app, but some of those apps might still have access to your camera or your mic, even if you're not using them. I once found a game on my phone with microphone access, and it didn't even have sound features. So that was my cue to revoke it fast. So every few weeks, I want you to be reviewing which apps have access to your camera, your microphone, location, and photos. You can do that by going into your settings and taking a look at the apps, and then you can see which ones have access to camera or microphone. The permissions tend to accumulate over time, especially adding after installing new apps or updates. If an app doesn't need them, then turn it off. Fewer permissions mean fewer privacy risks and less data exposed if an app is compromised. On both iPhone and Android, you can also set up apps to ask every time, which is really ideal for tools that you use infrequently. I have gone through and I'll disable everything, and then as I'm using my phone, then it's kind of annoying because it'll make you then go back in and turn it back on. But it gives me the opportunity to actually reset from ground zero and say, do I really need this application to have these permissions, or do I not? And so I like doing it every so often just to do a reset on the tools that actually do need access or additional permissions. We like to say that that's something that we do as part of corporate user access reviews, making sure that users only have appropriate access to systems and tools that they need. So it's really no different with your own personal phone or corporate phone that you have assigned to you. Now, we want to then move into digital habits here. So we've strengthened your devices. Now let's strengthen the daily choices that matter the most, right? How we handle texts, messages, and emails. These habits, they take seconds. They cost nothing, and they provide the highest return on your safety. So we'll start with the newest wave of text-based scams. Now, the first one is going to be, I want you to really watch out for those wrong numbered texts. They say, hey, how are you? Or they say, are we still on for tonight? Or it says, happy birthday. These casual texts are designed to get you to respond. Once you reply, the scammers then know your number is active and they will try to build a profile, your name, job, routines to use later. So even a polite wrong number response confirms that you're real. So the safest move here is no response, block and delete. Legitimate contacts will identify themselves clearly, and you can always reach out through a known channel to confirm. So silence really here is your best reply. Do not engage with unknown numbers. Now we want to go to do not save a scammer's number. So we just talked about the wrong number. So a common variant targets parents and families. It'll say, Mom or Dad, I broke my phone. This is my new number. Now, once you engage, the asks begin. Money, bank details, or a one-time MFA code. Those scammers may then use social media details or even an AI voice cloning to sound convincing. So when you receive a message like this, pause, do not reply. Instead, contact your family member using a known number or another channel to verify. That one-click check can prevent a really costly mistake. So again, the smart tip here, and we're caught probably on a theme now, is verify before you trust. That one-click call can stop a costly scam. Now we're going to go to working safely from public Wi-Fi. And since many of us travel or work remotely, and connecting to hotel or coffee shop Wi-Fi feels like second nature, the good news is that the public Wi-Fi is safer today than it used to be. And that's really thanks to the encrypted websites. So if you're familiar, the little S in HTTPS means that your connection is scrambled so that hackers can't easily read it. Again, you do not want to be on a website that is just an HTTP. Make sure you see the S. And you can now, in many browsers, you'll see either a locked icon, you'll see a green symbol. Be on the lookout for that URL in the top and just make sure it says HTTPS. Still, though, that doesn't mean that all risks are gone, even though you see the S. We want to avoid networks that don't ask for a password. So stick to secure websites and never click logon links from emails, because phishers are using fake versions of websites that look exactly like IDB, Global Federal Credit Union's website, to steal your credentials. So make sure, again, that you're not clicking on links from emails or text messages, anything that's coming to you. Always go to the website, type it in to your browser manually so that you can then use your username and password. And if you need to share sensitive files, encrypt them before you're sending it. It only takes a few clicks, but it adds a powerful layer of protection. You can even password protect the file as well. But when in doubt, use your phone's hotspot or a reputable VPN, especially while traveling. So I always get questions around this this time of the presentation about Wi-Fi. And so I thought it would be really helpful to show a slide about public and home Wi-Fi safety checklists. So when you connect to public Wi-Fi, you're sharing that space with hundreds of people and sometimes hackers. The safest rule, again, is to look again for that HTTPS in your browser, and when possible, use a VPN. Now, a VPN or a virtual, it's also called a virtual private network, that encrypts everything you send or receive so that no one on the same network can read it. Think of it like driving through a private tunnel instead of an open highway. The tunnel is protecting your data from anyone that's watching. It's also especially helpful in airports, hotels, and cafes where you can't control who else is on the network. And when I went through one of my cyber operations classes through my master's program, we could go to Starbucks and leverage certain tools, and you can use those tools to see what others around you in the Starbucks, what websites they're going to, what they're clicking on, what usernames they're adding. You can see exactly what they're typing, exactly what password they're entering. So there are plenty of tools that bad actors or just curious individuals like myself going through a master's or higher education program can leverage that are readily available, that you can go on and you can see what folks are adding. So that's just an example here. So make sure you're very careful if you're going to be doing banking or any other sensitive information, going to sensitive websites. Don't do that on a public Wi-Fi. Wait until you're on a home secured Wi-Fi. Now, at home, don't just assume that your Wi-Fi is automatically secure. You need to make sure that you're changing your router's default password, enabling WPA2 encryption, which is really the basic. The next bump up is WPA3 encryption, and keep that router's firmware updated. So if your router supports a guest network, you want to set one up for visitors or smart devices like TVs or speakers. It helps you your main devices and work systems, keep them isolated. And even at home, a VPN adds another layer of privacy by shielding your browsing habits from internet providers or potential attackers. The key takeaway is this, though. Every extra layer of defense, whether it's the HTTPS or the encryption or the router security or a VPN, that all is making your network less attractive to attackers. And at the end of the day, it's keeping your financial and personal information safe. So now I want to talk a little bit about the CAPTCHA tests. Now, what these are, it's something really that we've seen online. They're the I'm not a robot boxes or picture puzzles that are meant to keep bots out. But recently, attackers have started turning this trust against us. You see a fake CAPTCHA scam called ClickFix, and it looks like a normal verification screen, but it tells you to press a series of different keyboard shortcuts like Windows plus R or Control and V and Enter. And that combination actually opens the Windows Run window and executes malicious code that the attacker can plant in your clipboard. So if you ever see a CAPTCHA asking you to press keys or run commands, that's a big red flag. The real CAPTCHAs that you can see on the screen here might ask you to click pictures, click all the hats, click all the buses, click all the bikes. Or it asks you, like this one on the screen, it'll have numbers and letters, and it'll say type the letters or type the numbers, but it never asks you to perform any keyboard actions. And so we want to close the tab. Don't interact further if you see it asking you to do keyboard shortcuts. And let your IT team know or get help. These scams are spreading really, really quickly and fast. And Microsoft actually reports thousands of new attacks each day with this. So a little skepticism goes a long way. This is actually pretty clever, I think. So it's definitely one to be on the lookout for. And I think it's really started to increase this year specifically. So share that tip with your family, with your spouse, with your coworkers. So now we're going to go into our core define tool. So we want to, now that we've covered how scams operate and how to protect your devices and networks, let's shift into the next layer of defense. Now, the tools that stop attackers, even when something slips through, these are going to be the essentials: the multi-factor authentication, email security, and account monitoring. Think of them as the locks, the alarms, the cameras for your digital life. And each works together to prevent unauthorized access and alert you early if something's wrong. So let's start with one of the most effective and easiest to enable, and that's going to be the multi-factor authentication. So for multi-factor authentication, when it comes to cybersecurity, a strong password is absolutely your foundation. Just like you build a house on a foundation, we need to have a strong password as your foundation. But the multi-factor authentication, or MFA as it's also called, is your safety net. And it is, if someone steals your password or it's exposed in a breach, MFA ensures that they can still get in without the second verification step. Think of it like locking your door or setting an alarm. The password keeps most people out, but MFA is what stops someone, even if they already have a key. It adds a quick second step, typically a time-limited code or a push notification or an approval on your phone. You'll often see MFA offered through text, email, or an authenticator app. While SMS is most common, the authenticator apps are really the safest because they generate codes directly on your device and can't be intercepted. So use MFA anywhere you can for banking, email, cloud storage, and any account that matters. It's one of the easiest and most effective defenses against the account takeovers. And the bottom line here is just enabling that MFA today is one of the highest value actions you can take. It's a small habit that stops most hackers cold. And these tools, the MFA and the simple inbox hygiene, really are your everyday armor that will keep those cyber criminals out. The next piece is the email compromise. And one of the most dangerous scams today is email compromise. It's quiet, it's patient, it often goes undetected for weeks. Attackers don't just steal your password, they set up forwarding rules so that your invoices or alerts get sent somewhere else or hidden in folders that you rarely open. So this gives them time to study your habits and strike when it counts. So you may not notice anything wrong until a payment request or a password reset goes missing. And that's why it's critical to make sure it's a monthly habit to review inbox rules and filters. If you ever notice missing messages or any new folders you didn't create, delete them, change your password, and enable MFA. That 2-minute check can really prevent significant financial loss, and it's especially important if you are managing bills, invoices, or financial correspondence by email. I love to set up an alert for any new mail alerts inside of my email. So if it's a new mail rule, that is a great thing, because if I didn't set it up, then a bad actor did. So be on alert for any new rules that are set up in your inbox. Now, we're going to go into some of our closing thoughts and key takeaways here. So as a cyber advisor who works with credit unions across the country, I'll tell you the ones that stay the safest have one thing in common. They see cybersecurity as a shared effort. And so every member on this webinar today plays a part. When you pause before you click, when you verify before you share, and you use security tools that your credit union provides, you're helping protect not just yourself, but the entire member community. And the best part is you don't need to be technical to make a difference. As you saw today, awareness and very small actions are what stops most of those threats. So the 3 practical takeaways to carry forward. First, pause and verify, especially when anything urgent or financial is coming through. Second, strengthen your account's unique passwords, MFA anywhere, and regular device updates. And then third, prepare for recovery, cloud backups for convenience, and an offline unplugged backup for resilience. The cybersecurity here, it's not about fear, it's about confidence. So we want you to walk away today with plenty of confidence. So that really wraps up, and we've got 10 minutes left here. So I want to thank you for investing the time to strengthen your awareness. Every careful click, every verified call protects not only your accounts, but your entire credit union community. And if you'd like a checklist from today or help applying these steps, please reach out to IDB Global team or to me directly at PB Mares. We're happy to help you and your family stay safe online. Just stay alert, stay curious, and have a wonderful day. So without further ado, we will reserve the last 10 minutes here to answer any Q&A questions that are coming through the chat. And I know we've got a couple other final closing comments too.
Oh, great presentation, and thank you for all the information. We do have one question now, but I highly encourage everybody to ask the questions they do have so we can address them in the session. So there's one question that talks about, for people who travel often, they switch phones. They've got like the two phones, the personal and the business. What is the safest way to keep MFA working without risking lockout?
Okay, so that's a really great question. Now, I'm assuming that you've got different phone lines, potentially landlines, and potentially others that might be mobile phone lines. So I'd say the best is set up the backup method. So if you're using an authenticator app, you can use Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, you can use Duo Mobile. Rather than relying only on SMS, these apps can generate codes even when you don't have cellular service. So I think that's a first step. I would also enable multiple MFA methods for your account. So you can use the Authenticator app, you could use your backup phone number, and I would probably use the backup phone number if you have multiple mobile devices that you're taking with you, and maybe a hardware token. So if one method fails, you still have alternatives. I would also say that you can generate backup recovery codes ahead of your trip. You can write them down, or you can store them securely offline and bring them along, or just leave it with a trusted person. So that's really the access methods. Then if you're switching phones or SIMs, potentially, if you switch to a new SIM or phone abroad, before you travel, or really as soon as possible, you want to make sure that the new travel phone number, if you're going to be using one, is added into your MFA account as an alternative method. And you want to keep your home phone number active. So if possible, so any SMS or voice call codes can still reach you even when you're abroad. I find that some travelers keep a low-cost line just for receiving those texts and calls. And if you have any dual SIM or eSIM capability, you could even consider keeping your original number live, even if you're using a local number for data, so that you don't lose your trusted phone number that's linked to the MFA. I'd also say, if I'm thinking about just traveling abroad and other considerations, the Authenticator app, like I was mentioning, it works with internet access, no cellular required. So it's good when you're on Wi-Fi only, but the SMS text could fail if you're using a foreign SIM or if roaming is turned off. So you don't want to rely solely on those text message codes. And that's why I would set up and test the login while you're still at home or early in your travel, just to make sure everything works and you don't depend on it. If you can keep a secure connection and you're using a VPN on public Wi-Fi, just avoid logging in on any untrusted devices, especially abroad. But I guess you could also use a hardware security token, like a USB or an NFC token, if it's supported by your accounts. That's really the most resilient MFA method. So hopefully that gives a couple different options that you can leverage.
Perfect. Thank you for that. There's a couple more questions. Are password managers safe to use?
Yes. So we find that there's a lot of different password managers out there, and it really depends on whether you're leveraging them for personal or for corporate. Sometimes corporate does have certain policies in place of which ones you have to use. And so I would certainly make sure that you're leveraging a password manager. It's better than using a stick-it note or an Excel file on your mobile device that might be intercepted. It doesn't have proper encryption. So I'd say that yes, using the password manager lets you generate that unique, strong password and store them in an encrypted vault so that you don't reuse weak passwords. There's good ones that do have encryption. So it's often good to see which password manager you're selecting and make sure that it does employ encryption. If it doesn't, then I really wouldn't pick it. So that would be one consideration. They're really best available for managing the credentials versus writing them down and using the same passwords everywhere. I find that if we're using the password managers, we generally have unique passwords across different accounts, where if you're writing them down or you're using the same password everywhere, you're generally just relying on either the browser saving passwords, or you're just leveraging the same password everywhere. So for households or for people who are traveling and switching devices, I'd say password managers are definitely still the smart choice to simplify credentials and keep them safe across phones and laptops and tablets without writing things down. At the end of the day, though, there are risks, right? And so one of the big risks that I can think of is the password manager becomes a single point of failure. So if someone compromises your master password, your unlocked vault or gains access to your device with the vault open, then your credentials could all be at risk. So some providers have had breaches, or there have been concerns about how they store or sync their vaults, especially some of the cloud-based ones. So, some of the free or less reputable password managers may lack the features like the 2FA, MFA, the strong encryption, the audit logs. And so I think those password managers are higher risk. So I would stay away from the free, password managers that don't have encryption and MFA or audit logs. I actually really like if they have an audit log, because you can go in and say, yeah, I logged in then, and I know what that is. So I would pay for one if you're going to use it, and just, that's just a cost of life these days. Or if it's cost of, you could use it and bill it back to your company, I'd say that that's probably the better way to do it. There are browser-built password managers, but that may not offer the same level of security features or auditing as certain dedicated solutions. So I would, if you're looking at choosing a password manager, I would say the criteria I'd want you to write down is you want them to have strong encryption, so AES 256 or equivalent. You want multi-device support, so it could be phone, tablet, desktop, cross-platform synchronization whenever you need it. I would want it to support 2FA and MFA on the vault itself. So even if someone knows your master password, there's another barrier. And then make sure it's a good, reputable company that has a good track record, security reviews, no major unresolved breaches, and good, backup and recovery options, and the ability to audit and monitor your passwords.
Thank you for that. We have a couple more questions that I know actually we're at the top of the hour, so I want to make sure we address them as soon as possible if we're able to. One, is it better to use Wi-Fi or data? I would assume data, but to enter your bank account.
I'm sorry, you said, is it better to use Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi or data to enter your bank account?
I would say if you're leveraging your Wi-Fi with a VPN or you're on a secured Wi-Fi, then that would be the better way.
Okay, perfect.
And then back to the other password manager, I know folks will usually ask which one I recommend. There's plenty out there. NordPass does have a password manager, and they tend to be one of the big ones with strong encryption, really good reputation. I think it's on the best of 2025 list. So I would say they're probably my top one to look into.
Thank you so much. So we're actually at the end of time. If you do have any questions, is it okay if they email you, or they can email us at cu.marketing@idbglobalfcu.org. I do want to emphasize, please, if you are unsure or doesn't feel well, call the credit union. We're not going to call you randomly or ask you for random questions. So when your gut doesn't feel right, please call us at 202-623-3363. Additionally, put your MFA authentications, right? Maybe a little inconvenient at the beginning, but we do have those tools to make sure that you can always have that safe entry into your online banking credentials. Use debit cards control. That way you know if your card's being used right away, right? So you can mitigate that type of fraud. And if anybody drives this sense of like, it has to be done right now, it really doesn't. So make sure you stop and pause and think. We are here for you for anything you need. Again, you will get an email probably by the end of the day with a link to this presentation so you can go over it again. We are always here for you, and we always value your membership. So take care, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.